Welcome to the world of Tomb Raider, the iconic action-adventure game released in 1996. Developed by Core Design and published by Eidos Interactive, Tomb Raider introduced gamers to the adventurous world of Lara Croft, an archaeologist on a quest to explore ancient tombs and uncover mysteries. The game was ahead of its time in terms of 3D graphics, with revolutionary game design that combined exploration, puzzle solving, and action. Today, we will witness how a 3DFX Voodoo graphics card took this game to new heights. I will be benchmarking the game using the 3DFX MaxiGamer 3D with 3 varying memory configurations: 4MB, 6MB, and 8MB. If you are curious how I came to possess a MaxiGamer 3D with 8MB of memory, I encourage you to watch the video linked in the upper right corner, where I demonstrate how to create 2 memory board mods that upgrade the standard MaxiGamer 3D to 8MB. At the time when Tomb Raider was released, personal computers were still relatively underpowered, but by no means inexpensive. As I pondered over which base system to assemble for testing Tomb Raider, I ultimately settled on a Pentium 120, which is a rather peculiar processor. This was the first processor produced using the 350nm technology, yet it had the same die dimensions as its predecessor, which was fabricated utilizing a 600nm process. The reason for this is that at that time, Intel relied on wire bonding to link the die to the package. Connections could only be created at the edge of the die. Shrinking the chip would have necessitated a package redesign. The solution was to maintain the chip's size while still taking advantage of the smaller manufacturing process to reach higher frequencies. In 1996, having abundant system memory was considered a luxury due to its high cost. It was not uncommon for a single stick of 16MB of memory to cost several $100s. Nevertheless, I opted to pair the Pentium 120 with 2 sticks of 8MB each, which was considered a respectable amount of memory at the time. From my collection of older hardware, the Trident TGUI 9440 graphics card was the only one that fit the desired time period. Although it wasn't the most high-end option available, this card has an impressive 2MB of video memory that enables it to support resolutions of up to 1280 by 1024. Albeit with only 256 colors. I think the Trident card is a solid representation of an average 2D graphics card from that era. For audio, I chose an AudioDrive ES1688F ISA sound card, as it was both popular and reasonably priced. This sound card is compatible with various sound standards, including the Sound Blaster Pro, which is one of the options available during the installation process of Tomb Raider. To complete the build and make it as well-rounded as possible, I chose the Asus P55T2P4 motherboard in its revision 2.3. Although this revision does not support Pentium MMX CPUs, it has 256KB of level 2 cache on board. I was curious about the approximate price of the system back then, so I tried to find price lists from 1996, and I found what I was looking for in some old magazines. Those kind of advertisements may bring back old memories. A rough estimation of the system that I have put together here was around $1,300 to $1,500 back then. Adjusted for inflation, this would be around $2,700 in today's US dollars.
Right, let's go adventuring.
With everything in place, it is time to start our exploration of the world of Lara Croft and experience what it was like back in 1996.
What's a man gotta do to get that kind of attention from you?
It's hard to say exactly, but you seem to be doing fine.
Well, great. Though truth is, it ain't me that wants you.
Oh?
No, Miss Jacqueline Natla does, from Natla Technologies. You know, creator of all things bright and beautiful.
Seal it, Larson.
Ma'am.
Feast your eyes on this, Lara. How does that make your wallet rumble?
I'm sorry. I only play for sport.
Then you'll like a big park. Peru, vast mountain ranges to cover, sheer walls of ice, rocky crags, savage winds, and there's this little trinket, an age-old artifact of mystical powers buried in the unfound tomb of Qualapec. That's my interest. You could leave tomorrow. Are you busy tomorrow?
At the start of our first adventure, we find ourselves in a world that may appear as a pixelated mess to younger generations. However, in 1996 this was considered state-of-the-art and left many gamers in awe. Unlike other prevalent 3D action games of that era, the camera in Tomb Raider was positioned in a way to intentionally place Lara in the center of the frame, ensuring she remained visible and prominent on screen at all times. The game was designed to be played from a third-person perspective, allowing players to fully immerse themselves in Lara's world. So here we are, exploring caves, solving puzzles, and simply trying to survive a world rendered in 320 by 200. Although there is no built-in method to retrieve the current frame rate, the Pentium 120 appears to have enough resources to render the game at this resolution. It is important to note that the game is limited to a hard-coded frame rate cap of 30 frames per second. Should you be using a less powerful processor than the one I'm using here, you may encounter performance issues even at a lower resolution. In such instances, you can opt to decrease the game's details. The options include low, medium, and high details. An additional choice is available to players involving the reduction of the rendering window size. This tweak could potentially transform the game from a frustrating, stuttering experience to a much smoother one. Similar techniques have been employed in other popular games, such as Doom and Wolfenstein 3D, several years prior to Tomb Raider's release. And while it is possible to increase the resolution to 640 by 480, it becomes apparent that the Pentium 120 does not possess the required processing power to deliver an enjoyable gaming experience at that resolution. In such situations, accepting lower details is no longer good enough, and the only remaining solution is to decrease the rendering window size to achieve playable results. But I think we spent enough time rendering this game in software mode. Let's have a look at why you are all here watching this video. How did the game change when we pair it with a 3DFX Voodoo card? For 3DFX Glide to work, you need to get the 3DFX patch that was released a few months after the official launch of the game. And of course, you were required to buy one of those new shiny 3D accelerators, which carried a price tag of $300 at the time of their release. Can you imagine what it must have felt going from the previous experience to this? Your computer, which barely delivered playable results, can now render smooth gameplay at a resolution of 640 by 480. The choices to adjust resolution, game details, or rendering window size are now absent. You now have a choice to either render the game normal or make use of MIP mapping. We also get a frame counter which displays the current frame rate, at last. And as long as we do not switch on anti-aliasing, the machine delivers constant 30 frames per second, the maximum you can achieve in Tomb Raider. This is a scene with a rather large area that needs to be rendered. You can see how textures become blurry when we switch on MIP mapping. To the Voodoo card, it makes no difference which texture mode is used. Once anti-aliasing is enabled, however, we can finally see a drop in frame rates. Any benchmark numbers you will see in this video have been collected with MIP mapping and anti-aliasing enabled. Speaking of benchmarks, you get 2 demo scenes when you remain inactive in the main menu. I will be mainly focusing on the first demo scene because it had the most variation of frame rates, as you will see later in the charts. But wait, how can we get a somewhat accurate measurement of the average frame rate if we only get the current frame rate displayed on the screen? Well, I'm glad you asked. This is a tool I put together that should help me extract the frame rate data from any captured video, as long as there is a number printed somewhere on the screen. I already created a profile for Tomb Raider videos. All I have to do now is to drop the video file I want to analyze and press the OCR button. The tool is utilizing FFmpeg and Tesseract OCR to provide me with this nice list of captured frame rates. Tomb Raider only updates the frame counter once every second, so there is no need to extract more often.
Well, you have my total attention now. I'm not quite sure if I've got yours though.
If you enjoy the content so far, please don't forget to like the video. And now let's get the benchmarks going and test if we can see any difference in performance if we equip the Voodoo card with different memory configurations. You may have already noticed that scenes captured with different memory configurations look almost identical. The Voodoo card does not seem to benefit much, if at all, from extra memory. The frame rate differs slightly when we analyze the footage frame by frame, but this is due to the fact that Tomb Raider does not update the frame counter at the exact same time for each of the benchmark captures. The best we can do is just run the benchmark and capture the average frame rate at the end of the test. I was not satisfied with seeing almost identical outcomes and wanted to discover something that is worth spending money on, which actually makes a difference. So let's take a quick look at the level 2 cache. Some motherboards like the Asus P55T2B4 that I'm using may have some level 2 cache already built in. The test results I have collected indicate that you should have a minimum of 256 KB of level 2 cache. Even though there is no significant enhancement when upgrading from 256 to 512 KB, the frame rate increases consistently throughout the entire benchmark when moving from 0 to 256 KB. How about upgrading the computer's processor for better performance? I overclocked the Pentium 120 to 133 MHz and retested the game. We can see a measurable improvement in its performance. The reason for this significant improvement is that overclocking in this particular case raises the system bus speed from 60 to 66 MHz, which enhances the performance of all components connected to it, including the system memory, the graphics card, processor, and even the sound card. Upgrading to the best CPU this motherboard supports, a Pentium 200, will bring us to the point where further hardware upgrades won't result in better performance. While a Pentium 200 would significantly enhance software rendering for this game, combining it with a 3DFX Voodoo card has already maxed out its performance potential. The same may already be true for a Pentium 166. And finally, here are the calculated average frame rates for the scenarios I have shown you so far. For the Pentium 120, it does not make any difference if you have a Voodoo with 4, 6 or 8 MB. The size of the level 2 cache is also of no concern as long as you have a level 2 cache. We do see a difference in performance if we increase the frequency of the CPU. A Pentium 133 increases the average frame rate to 28, up from around 26 with the Pentium 120. With the Pentium 200, we finally maxed out what is possible in Tomb Raider. Any faster CPU will not make the game run better. And for completeness, here is the chart of the second scene of the demo benchmark. I mentioned before that I did not focus on this scene because the variation in frame rate was not as good as in the first scenario. The game remains at the maximum frame rate of 30 frames per second for more than 50% of the time, even with a Pentium 120. If you look at the scene, you may understand why. We start in this closed passage and remain in closed areas for most of the time. Even Lara's jump from the cliff does not impact the performance as much. So, the conclusion is quite simple. Tomb Raider does not benefit from Voodoo cards with more than 4 MB of memory. The good thing is that the extra memory did not cause any issues. By the way, I should have mentioned this at the beginning. I am not responsible if you feel the urge to get out your old copy of Tomb Raider and spend the next 15 to 20 hours of your life trying to beat this game. Tomb Raider may have been the perfect game to try a resolution of 800 by 600, which is unlocked by doubling the frame buffer memory from 2 to 4 MB. Unfortunately, increasing the resolution is not an option that is available. But I'm confident that we will find games that benefit from the memory modded Voodoo card. And with that, we have reached the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed the content, you liked the video and subscribed to my channel so you won't miss any new videos I will upload in the future. Thanks for watching and I will see you in one of my other videos.